Welcome to the CFL Weekly Pick'em Show on the Grueling Truth Sports Network. The CFL Weekly Pick'em Show is brought to you by BetNow.eu. Use the promo code, I don't know, Truth100, I think it was, to get a cashback bonus on your first deposit. I am your host for the CFL Weekly Pick'em Show, Mike Goodpaster. Right now, I'd like to welcome in my co-host. First up, Brian Schmidt. How you doing, Schmitty?
Doing good. Playoff time. Exciting time.
Yeah, we get down to the good stuff now. There's no more of those three crappy teams playing. And a guy who is also a co-host, CFL Legend, played for two of those three crappy teams, Robert Drummond. How you doing, Robert?
I'm doing pretty good. You had to make it a friend, huh? I played for two of the bad
Well,
teams this
you
year,
know,
but
I've given you great intros as a legend all year. I figured I'd, play around a little bit. But let's start off with a little news for first that broke. The BC Lions have taken the first step in righting the wrongs from a 5-13 season by firing head coach Devon Claybrooks. They gave him, 1 year? Do you think this is fair, Brian?
Uh, I never like that when people give a head coach just 1 year. However, in many situations, sometimes they're just overmatched, and I think maybe this was one where simply overmatched, and you can't take the chance of falling down in the well too much deeper, and I think that's kind of where they went with this is stop the bleeding now before this thing gets out of control.
All right. And Robert, it says here on the marketing side, the Lions would have trouble selling tickets next year if Claybrooks was still on the sideline wearing his hat at his slightly twisted ankle. I don't know what the hell that's got to do with it, but to me, this organization overall has failed. I don't think you can blame just one guy here.
no, you can never blame just one guy. And if I was a coach and I had known that basically it was a one-shot deal, you tend to go to the coach different. You're going to take more chances. You're going to try, maybe on third and 5, you're going to go for it, knowing that you only got a one-shot deal. So, it's a disservice, to him to be able to only go out there and coach 1 year, because if you don't know what's going to happen, you approach the game entirely different.
Yeah, and really, shouldn't the GM be fired too then? Because he's the guy that hired the guy that they had to fire immediately.
Exactly. I don't like teams that sit there and point fingers at one person. One person wasn't the cause of this demise in the BC Lions. It was a collective group of guys who go out there and didn't get it done. One guy taking the blame, taking the fault like a head coach does. It's just not right.
Yeah. Schmitty, did you have something to say there?
Oh, I agree 100%. This is it may be the biggest point to this whole thing is this is not just one person, and absolutely the GM should, if you're gonna fire somebody, I mean there needs to be more than one person on the responsibility on this. That clearly, obviously as of right now, did not happen, and that's kind of unfortunate. I mean, because again, this is more than just one person making this decision, and I sometimes feel like in sports, and we see this a lot of different times, is one person gets thrown under the bus while everybody else throw their hands up and go, I had nothing to do with this. And in actuality, there's a lot of that. There's a lot of people that have to go into making these decisions.
All right, let's go ahead and let's get to Week 21, the final week of the season. Vernon Adams Jr. tossed a pair of touchdown passes, and Matthew Schultz added another to lead the Montreal Alouettes past the hapless Ottawa Redblacks with a 42-32 road win on Friday night. The playoff-bound Owls moved to 10-8 and will now prepare to face the Edmonton Eskimos, which we'll talk about in a little bit. And I don't think anybody saw this coming with the Alouettes making the playoffs when the season started, Robert, because we were speaking about them the same way we were the Argonauts at the start of the year.
Yeah, we were. How the table turns, But they turned it on midway to the end of the season. And as long as Vernon Adams Jr. is in the game, there's a chance for him to do something special, because he's a dynamic player, and he's what really makes this team go, as you can say. But we'd have never guessed that at the beginning of the season, because they were considered in the cellar dwellers at the beginning. But what a great turnaround for them to put themselves in position to have a possible chance of winning a Grey Cup.
Yeah, and Brian, Ottawa tried this game.
Uh, I guess we can say they tried. They didn't get blown out, but Montreal clearly was getting ready for play for me. And I give Montreal a lot of credit for playing Vernon Adams early in the game, getting him his work, but getting him out. I know they got some other players out too, but they really did this exactly the way you need to do it. And more NFL teams need to pay attention, because you don't play people and then you expect them to play in a high, stressful playoff game. That's why these teams that are, great records and everything, they don't play people the last week of the season. Then they get playoffs and lose. Cue Pittsburgh. And this is the thing, is you got to play people. You don't have to play them the whole game, but get them some work so that way they stay sharp. And Montreal did a good job of that.
All right.
I can completely agree with that. It's for the simple fact of in every game I played, during that great stretch run where I played in four Grey Cups in a row. 2 with Baltimore and 2 with Toronto. It's like we had the Eastern Division Championship locked up 4 or 5 games, left in the season, and every player, every starter still played at least up until halftime. Just to keep the consistency and continuity going. So I believe in that wholeheartedly, 100%. You're absolutely correct.
All right,
got to play to be better.
The Saskatchewan Roughriders captured the Western Division crown with a 23-13 victory over the Edmonton Eskimos on Saturday. Quarterback Isaac Harker came up huge for the Riders, completing 23 of 28 passes in the victory. And when we look at this, they played their backups here. It looks like the starter, Cody Fajardo, will be good to go here in 2 weeks. The thing that stood out to me, William Powell, Marcus Thigpen, both ran the ball well. But this is a nice win for Saskatchewan, playing with the backups. Of course, Edmonton was playing with Logan Kilgore instead of Trevor Harris. So the more I look at this game meant really nothing. Even though they did clinch the West with it, but still, I mean, there's not much to see here that's going to lead us to think anything playoff-wise other than I think the Rough Riders have to be the favorites with Hamilton. And I think the Eskimos, when they get Trevor Harris, and I've been saying it all year, they're dangerous, Schmidt.
Yeah, they are. We've said it for years. Trevor Harris, when he's healthy, is an extremely dangerous quarterback, and he makes everybody better around him. We've seen that. We saw that with Ottawa when Trevor Harris plays. Ottawa back in was usually a little bit more consistent. I'll use that term, than when he was injured and not playing, and they're up and down. But at the end of the day, he's a dangerous quarterback. But at this point, we're to the time that all the cards go on the table now, and everybody's got to be playing their best football. But it's going to make Edmonton dangerous because of Trevor Harris.
Well, and I think something that helps Saskatchewan is if Cody Fajardo has any issues, gets hurt, Isaac Harker now, by playing in this game and playing well, will have a lot more confidence than what he would have had if he would have just been thrown into a playoff game, Robert.
I mean, I agree. It gave Harker an absolute chance to be able to go out there and, at least get game experience in an atmosphere that, he's going to be ramped up 100-fold, next week, with the playoffs starting. But this is a game where I consider it more so like a preseason game where coaches really can evaluate guys that help them, with their chance of advancing into the Grey Cup and going into next year. But this game, as you said before, it locked it up for Saskatchewan, but it was almost a meaningless game for players, to get themselves ready for the big game.
All right. I've been dreading this all year, but Lirim Ha'alahu kicked a game-winning 40-yard field goal in the final seconds to lead the Hamilton Ticats past Robert's old team, the Toronto Argonauts. With a 21-18 home win on Saturday night, the playoff-bound Ticats improved to 15-3, a perfect 9-0 at home. And Toronto tried really hard, Robert, but it wasn't to be here. But you had Dakota Prukop, who played quarterback against Hayden Moore. So this game, just like you had, it was a meaningless game that didn't really matter.
I mean, it's tough in a situation like this, especially for Toronto. It's a game that really doesn't matter. doesn't mean anything. It wasn't going to change Hamilton's standings as being first in the East. You know, it wasn't going to change Toronto's standing as getting a Grey Cup bid or or a playoff bid. You know, this is a game where you really didn't want to get hurt as a player because it's the last game of the season and with nothing to play for. Why take a chance of getting injured, knowing you can be a free agent next year or coming back strong next year? So I give them a lot of credit for going out there and fighting and playing as hard as they did. But you know, the future is bright for them with the simple fact that now the general manager is Mike Pinball Clemens, and I know anything about Penner. You know, he's as soon as that game was over, he was sitting home at his desk or sitting in the office at his desk, you know, preparing his team for next year. So it's going to be interesting to see them going forward, how well they can do with him, because he's not only a great person, you should see how hard he works to be competitive and put a great product, you know, on the field.
All right, Brian, anything to say about this game? You don't have to if you don't want to.
No, none.
All right, the Calgary Stampeders punched their ticket to a home playoff date this weekend with a 21-16 win over the BC Lions. Of course, the Rough Riders already locked themselves in as the top Western seed with the win over Edmonton. Calgary rode into Vancouver and took down the BC Lions. And when we look at this game, there was nothing to play for here either. So I hate games like this. This is kind of like doing my Bengals show. But Bo Levi Mitchell did play 20 for 38, 1 touchdown, 1 interception. Don Jackson, 8 carries, 34 yards. Anything you can take away from this other than Calgary got in and got out? Nobody got hurt. Everything seems to be all right.
I think that pretty much sums it up.
Yeah. And we could talk about John White and Brandon Bridge, but you want to go ahead and just preview the playoffs there, Robert?
Yeah, as you said, this is a game with nothing. It's a playoff. I mean, playoff implications only for the Calgary Stampeders, but
the playoff implications were gone by then too.
It was a meaningless game. I'm impressed that Levi Mitchell played as much as he did.
Yeah, he played the entire game, I think, didn't he?
Yeah, no, I mean, I'm impressed. You know, that bodes well for him going forward because you know he'll come in with a hot hand, so that's good for Calgary.
Now, Sunday, CFL playoffs. Both matchups here are extremely intriguing, I think, as we have first up on Sunday at 1 o'clock. So my choice is to watch Edmonton play Montreal or the Bengals play the Ravens. I think I may go with the CFL this weekend. Edmonton at Montreal. Vernon Adams will be playing. I assume Trevor Harris is playing. If he is, this game is extremely interesting. I think this is a hard one to pick, Brian.
It is, because we've talked about Trevor Harris, and we've talked a lot through the season about Montreal and Vernon Adams. And this has the makings to be a great playoff game because you've got two high-caliber quarterbacks. When they're both on, they make these offenses play at a high level. And the one thing that I take away from this is Montreal wasn't expected to be here. They're here. They've had a great year. Everything's different when you get to the playoffs. The lights get magnified. Are they going to be able to deal with that? Edmonton, they've been to the playoffs before. You've got, Trevor Harris there, who's, Grey Cup. Does that give Ottawa an advantage over Montreal that was not expected to be here? Here they are, kind of the surprise, they are the surprise team of the CFL this year. Are the lights going to be different for Montreal than they're going to be for Edmonton?
So who's going to win, Brian?
See, that's why I was just going with that, because I'm going to go with Montreal. I've liked this team all year. I like Vernon Adams, and I'm going to go with Montreal.
All right, now the thing that stands out, there's two stats here that I think really three stats that I think we got to look at as keys here, Robert. Number one, Vernon Adams, fourth quarter passing rating is 108.1. Those are elite numbers, especially in the fourth quarter. The other thing, 25 sacks allowed this year by the Eskimos. And number 3, the Alouettes' opponent completion percentage is 74%. Now, how do you take those stats? Or do you go with Montreal or do you go with the veteran Trevor Harris?
You know what? As much as I like Trevor Harris, and as much as I think he could see a difference in his game, I just think Vernon Adams Jr. is going to be dynamic in this game. But you heard me say it here first. I think Sandbeck has a monster game. He'll compete in this game as well as he started off at the beginning of the year. You know, the fact that he averaged more than – I was told as a running back by my mother, young, to always try and average, 5 to 6 yards to carry because it gets you first downs. For every 2 plays, you get a first down. And I think he averaged over 6 yards per carry, this year, So that bodes well. It says a lot to me, mentally. Now, don't get me wrong. I know Gabe was a 1,000-yard rusher. He's a good rusher also, but I just think that with Vernon Adams Jr., in front of you as a running back and just how dynamic he was and how much he means to that team, it's going to have a huge effect on him. I think Montreal wins this game by a touchdown or two. By a touchdown or two.
These are the stats that concern me when I'm picking the game. And I think what is clear is Edmonton may have the best pass-blocking offensive line in the CFL. They've only given up, as I said before, 25 sacks this season, which is 9 fewer than the second least given up, which is Calgary. The other thing that really sticks out to me is Montreal has only gotten to the opposing quarterback league low 27 times. When you combine that with the Alouettes' opponent completion percentage of 74%, common sense tells me that you have to pick Edmonton with Trevor Harris. But I'm picking Montreal. And common sense has never been one of my strong attributes. Brian can, vouch for me on that. And where I go with this is, with Montreal, you got a team that wasn't supposed to be here. You have a re-energized fan base. But the thing that sticks out to me is Trevor Harris is a great quarterback, great CFL quarterback. But he's only played 1 or 2 games in the last 2 months. So I still think there has to be some rust, especially in a high-pressure situation. I think this is a close game that goes down to the wire, and I think Vernon Adams wins the game late in the 4th quarter. So we all 3 agree. We're taking the Alouettes. All right, next up, we've got Winnipeg, who will battle Calgary, or as we like to call them, the New England Patriots of the CFL. Robert, when we look at this, Winnipeg only gives up 64 yards rushing per game. The average margin of victory between Calgary and Winnipeg is like 2.3 points when they play each other. So they've played a couple close games. And Bo Levi Mitchell in his last 5 starts against Winnipeg, 115 quarterback rating. And then we throw in the fact that Zach Collaros was taking first-team reps today. This is another game that I think is hard to pick.
This is a very hard game. It's going to be hard to pick, But as I said before, with the fact that Bo Levi Mitchell sat there and had almost 40 pass attempts and really meaningless game, it says a lot to me. It says that he could have easily taken himself out of that game. It really didn't count for anything. But he wanted to go in there and he wanted to keep himself sharp, for what's really important coming into this week. So with that being said, I think this is, like you said before, going to be a close game. But I think Calgary finds a way, just with, nostalgia, just with the mystique of the whole Calgary ambiance of how good they are and how they're one of the more dominant teams in the CFL over the past few years, finds a way to win this game.
All right, Brian, what do you think here? The other thing about Winnipeg is dating back to 1958, only one team, the 1995 Calgary Stampeders, has allowed fewer rushing yards than the 2019 Winnipeg Blue Bombers. Richie Hall's defense has suffocated opposing offenses when they tried to run the ball all year. And the big stat here is the Stamps couldn't run the ball at all against the Bombers this season, averaging a little over 40 yards per outing in the 3 contests. Does Winnipeg have a shot here?
I definitely think Winnipeg has a shot. My only reason why I'll pick Calgary is because A, they're at home, and B, there's just something to be said for a team that I feel like Calgary, year in and year out, playoff team, always one of the best teams, battle tested. It's hard to go against that. Winnipeg has not shown to be there yet. And until they do, it's much like New England Patriots in the playoffs. You know, people are going to pick New England Patriots until they're given a reason not to. Calgary has not given me a reason not to pick them. And I think Bo Levi Mitchell is going to have a big game, and I think Calgary's going to win.
All right, Winnipeg beat them a couple weeks ago. Bo Levi Mitchell threw 4 touchdowns, no interceptions. Zach Collaros, 22 for 28, 221 yards, 2 touchdowns. Winnipeg completely shut down Calgary's run game. I think I'm going to, just because it's boring if we all pick the same thing all the time, I'm going with Winnipeg, and I think the difference is going to be Andrew Harris. And this is if Zach Collaros plays. If he doesn't, no, I'm picking Calgary. But if Zach Collaros plays with Andrew Harris running the ball, I think they can control this game, and I think they can pull it out at the end. I'm going with Winnipeg.
It's just hard. I mean, let me tell you guys, I've played in Calgary before during playoff implications, and that's a tough place to play games, especially with a game of this caliber. I mean, I do agree with you with Andrew Harris, but at some point, you know, you're absolutely correct. Collaros will make a difference, because if he doesn't, they're gonna, you know, they find a way to shut down running backs, during playoff time. And with the weather, I mean, I was looking at the forecast even for Canada. You know, there's a cold front coming in this week, so that could play a factor in it also. And it's just so much mentally going into these games. As you said before, everybody's evenly matched, and you know, this is for it all. You're one and done, we call it here.
Well, the weather and the temperature is one of the reasons I think you're going to have to be able to run the ball. And I just like,
yes, I agree.
I like Andrew Harris better than Don Jackson or Michael Klaukus or Ant Litter or Leiter, whatever the hell you call him. I don't know why everybody got to spell their names all messed up, by the way. That's just something off topic. But I do a boxing show, and it seems like Europeans spell their names weird, too. And it gives me all kind of problems. And then next weekend, of course, we will decide who goes to the Grey Cup in 2 matchups that I think it's safe to say I don't see anybody in here that doesn't have a chance. Do you, Robert?
No, I think that everyone, you know, in the sport around the playoffs right now has a chance. You know, from the outside, underdogs, you know, Montreal Alouettes, you know, to the hot team and the best team pretty much all year. You know, the Hamilton Tiger Cats. You know, so it's going to be interesting to see what happens.
All right, Brian. Any final words of wisdom?
No final words of wisdom. I'm happy the playoffs are here, and there's really going to be, I think, 2 very good games on Sunday. And I think that, especially with some of the games that you're going to see from an NFL standpoint, go watch some CFL if you've never watched it. It's, you know, always some of the best football you're going to watch.
Well, being a Bengals fan is what turned me into the CFL back at the late 80s, early 90s. Yeah. Robert, any final words?
No final words, but hopefully not. My as you said in the beginning of this program, you know, my old BC Lions and my old Toronto Argonauts can go out there now and start preparing to make themselves, you know, able to put themselves in position for us to be talking about them next year at this point, as opposed to, you know, not this year. So hopefully they can get the ships righted and go out and make some acquisitions and do things to get themselves into the playoffs and further next year.
Ooh, Syracuse is not having a very good year either.
I'm not doing well with my sports team this year, man. Syracuse is struggling also bad. At least they'll win this week. They have a bye week.
Well, that don't mean they'll win. That just means they'll tie. Yeah, they're 3-6. If they win their last 3, they make a bowl game. But they got to go to Duke, to Louisville, who's really improved, and host Wake Forest. So,
and if I come out of retirement, I can start playing again. You know, I think I have a better chance of doing that than they do of winning the last 3. It's just they're not playing well. I mean, I love them to death, but I've been sitting here waiting all year for them to play well. They have not played well. They just haven't.
Well, I don't want to hear you complain. I'm a Bengals fan. All right, guys, we're going to wrap it up. Remember, you can catch the NFL Weekly Pick'em Show at the top of the hour at 10 o'clock, where Brian Schmidt, for the first time this year, came in first for the week.
Hot dog.
Yep. Now you're only like 9 games out. But so you can hear that show live at I
should be closer than that now.
You're not. But we can break it all down for you on the show if you want. But all right, guys, we're gonna wrap the show up, and you only beat me by 1 game. So You can hear us next week as we'll preview the conference finals at 9 o'clock next Wednesday night on the Grueling Truth Sports Network. But for now, I'm Mike Goodpaster. For Brian Schmidt, Robert Drummond, you've been listening to The Grueling Truth, where the legends speak.